guest speaker, have dinner, and then we're going to come back for additional awards. And so ahead of our first honoree, Maria Shriver, I'd like to draw your attention to the screens for a short video.
It is a relentless beast.
I was 36 years old when my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It felt like my world was ending.
I mean, there's some days I don't even get out of bed till 11 or 12 o'clock. I think my kids feel like they've lost a little bit of me, and they're scared.
Our mission at the Women's Alzheimer's Movement is to understand why every 65 seconds a new brain develops Alzheimer's, why 2 out of 3 of them belong to women, and why women of color are at an even higher risk.
We are facing a national epidemic that has put women's brains at risk, and I believe that it will be women's brains who will turn the tide.
WHAM exists to move the needle for women and Alzheimer's. We fund gender-based research at leading institutions. We convene summits that gather the smartest minds to educate the general public about brain health and Alzheimer's prevention. We advocate at the highest levels for national and state Alzheimer's funding and partner with corporate and community leaders to develop policies that help families impacted by Alzheimer's. And now we're on the ground providing women-based services. In a historic first, WHAM has partnered with the Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health to open the Women's Alzheimer's Movement Prevention Center at the Cleveland Clinic.
It gives me so much hope to be able to think that maybe I can prevent it, or at least delay the onset.
Up to 40% of current Alzheimer's disease cases might have been prevented if people had just modified their lifestyle. That's huge.
From the initial Shriver report informing the nation for the very first time that women were more likely to get Alzheimer's than men, to every other media platform since, WHAM has educated people about how to become change makers in their own homes, communities, and places of business. At WHAM, we believe Alzheimer's can be stopped, but only if we invest in research. Only if we all push government and business leaders to respond more urgently and creatively to this crisis. And only if we all take charge of our physical and cognitive health and the health of our loved ones. So join us at WHAM and help change the future for women and Alzheimer's, one woman at a time.
Please welcome to the stage U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy.
Well, good evening, everyone. How are you all doing? Well, I'm excited to be here tonight, and it is such an honor to join all of you and to join the Society for Women's Health Research as we celebrate some extraordinary and incredible leaders in women's health tonight. You know, I've had this great privilege for the last few years of serving as a Surgeon General, and one of the things that has been a true blessing in this job has been the opportunity to go and travel around the country and meet people of different walks of life, to learn from them, to hear their stories. And the issues that we have been most focused on over these last few years have been centered around mental health and well-being, and around the crisis of loneliness and isolation that unfortunately has swept across America and the world. But one of the many blessings of this work is that it brought me to cross paths with Maria Shriver. Maria is truly an extraordinary human being. She's somebody who cares deeply about these issues of mental health and loneliness and isolation, and it has been such an honor to work together with her on these causes. I'm also I want to express to you just how much she is so much more than the lines that appear on her resume or than the accolades that appear about her in the newspaper. She's a genuinely loving, caring, and compassionate human being, and that's what I think of most when I think of Maria Shriver. But let me tell you a little bit about the Maria that I've come to know and love. Maria is a mother of 4, a grandmother, an Emmy, Gracie, and Peabody Award-winning journalist. She's a storyteller, a 7 times New York Times best-selling author, emphasize 7. She's also an NBC News special anchor, a founder of the Women's Alzheimer's Movement, and a strategic advisor on women's health and Alzheimer's at the Cleveland Clinic. She's also the founder of Shriver Media and the co-founder of the mission-driven brain and health wellness brand Mosh. Maria has been a trailblazer, not just in journalism, but for empowering women. She uses her voice and multiple platforms to advance some of our nation's most pressing issues affecting women and women's health. And today, as if all the things that she was doing weren't enough, she also advises President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden on the first ever White House initiative on women's health research. This is a landmark move. And it is no understatement to say that Maria Shriver was a critical part of making this initiative take place. So for that alone, she deserves our gratitude and thanks. But her leadership in women's health began long before. In 2010, Maria broke new ground when, in partnership with the Alzheimer's Association, she published the Maria Report, A Woman's Nation Takes on Alzheimer. And in this report, which I love the title, by the way, the Maria Report, it's very appropriate, but she reported for the first time publicly that women are at greater risk for the disease. This is not something that was fully appreciated by the public before that. And Maria went on, very deservedly, to receive the first ever Alzheimer's Association Lifetime Achievement Award for her decades of public service, activism, and leadership. During her time also as First Lady of California, from 2003 to 2010, Maria worked tirelessly on behalf of women and families, particularly those who were living on the brink of poverty. And in 2016, partly in recognition of that incredible work, she was inducted into the California Hall of Fame. You know, her life and career are driven by the deeply, deeply held belief that everyone has the ability to be an architect of change and to make the world a better place. And on this note, I want to say that we know that programs and policies, these are the building blocks that so often make society better. But the glue that holds those blocks together are compassion, kindness, and love. And Maria brings all of this to the table in her efforts to help us build a stronger society that can serve women, that can serve children, that can serve everyone. That compassion, that kindness, that love, those are the hallmarks of Maria Shriver. And it's why, before I introduce her and bring her on stage to receive this award, I want to finally just share with her an excerpt from one of my favorite poems that reminds me of those qualities of love and compassion and kindness that she so effortlessly and consistently demonstrates. It's an excerpt from a program called On Work by the poet Khalil Gibran, who many of you may know. And the excerpt is as follows. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave the cloth with threads drawn from your own heart, even as if your beloved were to wear that cloth. It is to build a house with affection, even as if your beloved were to dwell in that house. It is to sow seeds with tenderness and reap the harvest with joy, even as if your beloved were to eat the fruit. It is to charge all things you fashion with a breath of your own spirit. Work is love made visible. Maria, you are love made visible. The work you have done, the inspiration you have provided, the friendship that you have blessed so many of us with is something that I deeply treasure. And it gives me great honor to present you with this award today. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming Maria Shriver. Got to have pictures? We're good? Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Okay, how great is that man? I'm so happy to see so many men here. I just want to say I'm so happy to see so many men. I love men, and I'm not used to seeing so many men. So great, men, woo! Anyway, I think I'm struggling a little bit. I think you're struggling to hear. Can you hear? Not much. But anyway, can you hear back there? Okay, because I want to make sure you can hear all of the incredible speakers. I don't care if you hear me, but I want to make sure that you hear all of these incredible speakers. But I do want to thank the Surgeon General for taking the time to be here tonight, for lending your gravitas to this event, for shining your light, the nation's light, on the subject of women's health and research. You have done such an incredible job with your office. He really has. You have informed, you have inspired, and you have impacted the nation's consciousness around the epidemic of loneliness and its devastating impact on all of our health. You have helped us understand our health in a broader way, which is so important, and you have helped guide us to living better amongst our fellow human beings. You have helped to move humanity forward, and for that and your friendship, I thank you and I love you. Thank you. Katie and the Society for Women's Health Research, thank you so much for this honor. I'm really humbled to be honored with all of these other incredible women who I admire. I thank you for all you and the Society has done to put the issue of women and their health on the front page of life. For too long, everybody in this room knows this, for too long, women have been yelling into the night. They have been feeling unheard, unseen, and invisible, but no more. This is a watershed moment for women, and I mean women of all skin colors, all ages, all religions, and all income levels. Women's health and the lack of research to guide us is suddenly front page news. And now we get to decide. Yeah, that's worth an applause, you're right. We made it from the feature section to the front page. It only took a lifetime, but there we are. But we now get to decide what is the story that we want to tell. Collectively, what is the story that we want to put out? There is, of course, a backstory, how we got here. That story is enraging, it's unjust, and it needs to be rectified, and it will be righted, and largely by the help of all of you who are gathered in this room tonight. There are 165 million women in this country, and more than 60 million of them are 50 years of age and older. Of those women, there you go on. Yeah. I'm one of them, not many people in this room are, but I'm proudly one of them. But of those women, there you go, you can all stand up, all the 50-some, go ahead, take a bow. But of those, the 60 million of whom are 50 years of age, most of them already have at least one chronic health condition. I'm one of those, and no doubt many of you are as well. 6,000 women enter menopause every single day. Men, do you hear that? Watch out. You need to know, 6,000 of them. They enter menopause with little information and even less research to guide them forward. The situation for our Black and brown sisters is even more dire. Millions of women live in maternal deserts. Millions of our sisters are older women living in extreme poverty, living without social, economic, physical, or mental assets. And while much is made of the fact that women live longer, statistics show that for most of us, the last 10 years of our life are spent in really poor health. Women are scared, they feel alone, vulnerable, and still invisible. And yet now, thankfully, they know that help is on the way. For many, it still feels kind of far off in the distance. For many, the assurances feel like too little, too late. But this story, this present story that we're living in right now is changing, and I tonight want to celebrate the progress. Women are learning to give credit and credence to that intuitive voice that lives within. They're no longer dismissing pain as imagined or something that's in their head or something that they must endure. Women are no longer talking into the ether about adverse reactions to drugs that have never been tested in or on females. Instead, they're talking openly about topics that for centuries have been off limits, whether it's breast cancer, heart health, menopause, perimenopause. They're talking openly about hormones, endometriosis, about postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, hypertension, and of course, the ever-feared condition of Alzheimer's that disproportionately impacts women. The fact that women are talking openly is progress. That's how change begins, and that's how the future becomes different from the present. That happens when people can tell their stories so that those who are in charge on the national level can change the story. I have long believed in the power of storytelling. It's why I became a reporter, and it's why I'm still a reporter. It's why I write every week, and it's why I publish other people's stories. It's why I walked into the White House last year and told the story about the lack of research into women's health to the First Lady and the President. Luckily for all of us, they listened to that story, and most importantly, they acted to usher in a new era of change. Like you, I know that too many stories go untold, but I know deep in my heart and my soul that life can be and will be better when we get to share our truths. Each of us is a messenger of hope and inspiration, a catalyst for change. But each of us has a choice to make. We can be messengers of doom, of negativity, of division, or we can tell our story with the intention to raise up another person and improve the world for others. Yes, the climate out there that we're all operating in is divisive, scary, and threatening. Stepping up and speaking out in the public square can feel intimidating. It can lead to doubt and fear. But it can also be incredibly inspiring, exhilarating, and empowering, because it is what leads to change, not just for yourself, but for others, and that is why we are all here. We're not here to just improve our own lives. We're not here to simply create our own brands or amass our own followers. At the end of the day, we're here to tell the story of our lives and use our experiences to make the lives of others better. This is what creates joys and inspires people to keep going. That's what connects us and unites us and makes us feel less alone in this very big world. The other morning, a friend sent me a news piece about doctors on the front lines of health who were admitting that due to the White House initiative on women's health research, a conversation had begun amongst them that had challenged them to rethink their approach to women's health, to rethink what women's health even is, what it even means. Those interviews said that they were now listening to women differently. They were caring for women differently. They were allowing women to experience their pain and talk about it differently. They were talking about how varied women's health symptoms are and how different everything is from what they were taught in medical school. And they were talking about how medical school curriculums need to be revamped, which they do. They were talking about this watershed moment in women's health and how all the news surrounding it was impacting their practices, their thought process, and their own internal biases. Well, that alone is progress, and we can lay that at the feet of the First Lady, the President, and their appointed warrior, Dr. Carolyn Missouri, who has come from Yale to Washington to lead this charge for all of us. And you're going to hear from her, and she's incredible. Every woman in this room knows that for far too long, women have been dismissed as weak, fragile, or crazy. Now I hope that so many of you know that that's no longer the case. And so, my sisters, I love saying that because I never had a sister, but I have 4 brothers, and my brother Timmy is here with me tonight, and my sister-in-law Linda, and my niece Kathleen, and my nephew Timbo, and his wife Tamra. So I want to call them out because they support me, and we all need support. But all of us are rewriting this story, this moment in women's care. We're rewriting the way our doctors treat us. Our stories are impacting politics. Our truths are being taken as such. And so we must carry on with urgency and calm. We must carry on with righteous anger and extraordinary compassion. We must be patient and unrelenting, because too many of our sisters have no one to accompany them on their life journeys, no one to validate their stories, no one to hold their hands as they move through life, especially in their final chapters. These women need to know that they have you, that they have me, and they have us. So my friends, if you can still hear me, it's loud out there, I know. I envision a country that's very different than the country we're living in right now. I envision a country that honors our journeys from birth to death, from puberty through pregnancy, if one so chooses pregnancy. I envision a country with a healthcare system that listens as we all speak, that honors women as they age, that does not dismiss us as we age. I envision a future where doctors have the facts and the research and the knowledge to care for us all differently. And everyone in this room, I know, is working towards that vision. I truly see that future, and I know it to be beautiful and achievable. I leave you with the words of Rumi, a poet who I love, who wrote, "Out beyond right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I will meet you there." I commit to meeting all of you in that field. And for me, that field is filled with my daughters, my granddaughters, my sons, my brothers, your husbands, your families. And guess what? Lo and behold, in that field that I envision, everyone's getting along. Yeah, they're tolerant and respectful, and they listen to different points of view, and they respect them, and we like one another. It's a beautiful vision, and I look forward to working with you to make it a reality. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Look at that. You can see why we are honoring her, right? Thank you, Dr. Murthy. I think you might have had to run. And congratulations again, Maria. I have to point out, and I know you've heard about this, but without your steadfast leadership, we wouldn't be where we are today in terms of the progress that we're seeing being made in women's health research and in such a quick period of time. In fact, it was just a year ago that we co-hosted a luncheon with the Women's Alzheimer's Movement at Cleveland Clinic. And there, Maria and I called for a large-scale initiative on women's health research, a moonshot, if you will, I think she mentioned. And just yesterday, this partnership had another very exciting event because the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, was there with us, which everybody could not have been more excited about. It was a really wonderful day. And here we are today with yet another special opportunity to hear about the White House initiative on women's health research, directly from the chair of the initiative, our guest speaker, Dr. Carolyn Missouri. And I know you're all energized to hear about this, and I'm energized that you all get to hear straight from Dr. Missouri about this initiative. Dr. Missouri comes to this role, as Maria said, from Yale, the Yale School of Medicine, where she's the Spungen-Bildner Professor in Women's Health Research and Professor of Psychiatry and Psychology. She was invited to chair the initiative as announced by the president at the signing of the presidential memorandum in November of 2023 because she is an esteemed leader in the field of women's health. Dr. Murthy is a clinician and a researcher, and among many other accolades, she founded and serves as director of the Women's Health Research at Yale, now in its 26th year as Yale's Interdisciplinary Research